Welcome to the Women in Leadership Body, Mind, Soul, and Business podcast. I'm Charlie.
And I'm Heather, and together we are working to connect women in leadership and business, improving the health and wellness of our community, body, soul, and mind. Welcome to today's Monday Mindset.
Oh, we love Mondays because we get to bring you guys some tools and tips to help guide you through your week and to start it off in a positive mindset.
Yes, and when we focus on this every week for ourselves, it helps our lives better too, and helps. We're seeing it in our personal communities. Just the mindset shift of everyone around us because we are shifting.
Absolutely. So we are going into the section 4 of our sutra book this week, part 4, personal practices from the Path of the Yoga Sutras by Nikolai Bachman. And the first chapter in that section is kind of an overview of what we're going to talk about for the next few weeks, which are the Niyamas, or the personal self-care practices. So
we're going to spend the next few weeks talking about different ways to do self-care.
Absolutely.
That's pretty awesome.
This week's Sutra quote: as human beings, our greatness lies not so much in being able to remake the world as in being able to remake ourselves. Mohandas K. Gandhi.
Remake ourselves.
Remake ourselves. So the Niyamas are the second of the 8 limbs of yoga. And there's a few different practices for the Niyamas that we will again talk about for the next 5 weeks. The first one being Saucha, which is cleanliness of the body, heart, mind, and surroundings. Santosha, which is contentment. Tapas, which is practice causing positive change. Spadbaya, which is study by and of oneself. And Ishvara Pranadhana, humility and faith. So it's gonna be some work, but I think bringing attention to these things, and these are the personal practices, these are the things you can actually do.
Yes.
Which help you with the process of the mental emotional tools that we have already touched on.
Yeah. So these are acts and things
These are acts
that we can start doing.
Yeah. And in doing so, we are taking better care of ourselves, our bodies, our minds, like all around. So good for you.
And our environment around us. And
because that stuff has an impact on how we feel.
And the imprint we leave when we leave somewhere, that all of that has to do with how our brain is doing.
And our energy and how we're working through things. And
it's exciting.
It is exciting. It is very exciting. And I can't wait to get into the next few weeks.
So our mindset, we are on week 35, 52 small changes for your mind by Brett Blumenthal. So it's this week we're talking about skipping the small talk. I think this is awesome because as humans, we are instinctively want to connect deeper. So this kind of like how do we do that?
Right. How do we have those deeper conversations? I mean, we talk with you guys, listeners on the podcast every day, and we have to, I wouldn't have to say work at getting into those deeper conversations, but it did take practice.
As I say, it's like practice, right? You have to keep practicing, which is pretty much what the quote is telling us. Great minds discuss ideas. Average minds discuss events. Small minds discuss people. So, and that's by Eleanor Roosevelt. And so we want to be discussing ideas. So how do you get that to happen? Right?
How do we get to the point where we're discussing ideas and not gossiping and not making assumptions and not and using our
Ooh,
words
and being impeccable with our word.
and
How
being
do we
impeccable.
and how do we see the opposite of things, right?
Yes, which
Oh,
is
wow.
all things we've talked about.
Right. All these
And,
things.
Also part of the 4 agreements, which we have 4
Coming
agreements
up.
week coming up that we're super excited
Ooh, and we are
bring
going to
that
be
you.
doing a hostile takeover this weekend.
Yes.
Ooh, and
We'll tell you more about that in a minute.
okay. So start by picking some topics of substance, like actually picking something that you could talk about with someone. And so that might start by like having prearranged conversation kind of about like a book, or getting together to talk about different ways to craft, or places where you're creating a common place to go, and everyone knows that when we're coming we're going to do this, right?
Yeah.
Prioritize the time with the people that you can talk deeply with.
Yes.
Right, because when we're having those more deep conversations, we're more fulfilled.
Yeah, we can work through a lot of stuff, and just by communicating with the people around us, the people that we are comfortable opening up to, and linking arms with, because no matter what your journey is, you're not alone on it, and somebody else might have had some experience that they might be able to share with you. There's a difference between sharing your experience and giving your opinion.
Yes.
So be careful which one you are doing, because not everybody wants to hear your opinion. However, they might want to hear about your experience.
That goes, I think, too, with active listening, which is one of the skills you can work on, is learning how to be an active listener. The like really asking a question about what they're saying instead of moving on to your own topic, really being engaging and digging deeper, getting curious about what they're saying. So, I mean, it's not realistic to think that you're not going to ever have small talk.
Right.
But put a limit on it. Right.
Yeah. And we all have our own boundaries, and I hope you keep your
stay true to yourself.
Yes.
Yes.
But also, are your boundaries so much that you're not letting anybody in either?
Right.
Because we tend to do that too.
Oh yeah.
Right.
Are you saying yes to everyone else and not to yourself?
So listen to yourself just as much as you do others, and just love on yourself some more.
Absolutely. The next tip is to expand your circle. So getting together, join groups of topics of interest. There's like library talks. There's, things that you can go do with other people, both on the internet and in person, where you can have deeper conversations. Maybe join the business group that has a topic of conversation as opposed to just a general conversation every time. Like thinking about what you want to take part in and how you want to show up.
Yes. Because I think showing up for yourself is most important. Showing up for other people, that's part of that, being impeccable with your word.
Yes. And when you give a little, you get a little. So in a conversation, don't assume that somebody else is going to immediately feel comfortable to share something with you. So now, if you're coming to talk with Charlie and I, you probably do. You will just tell us your whole life story. It's okay. We love you. We make you feel safe. But not everybody has that, ability, like when people sit down, to just feel safe for people to talk. So to help make other people feel more comfortable, I always share something really personal and deeper. So when I give personal and deep, then there it opens up for, this is a safe area to give personal and deep.
Right. And now we can't always do that either, because sometimes it can be a lot on us to take on somebody else's heaviness. Well, we have to be able to hold that space
during PTSD Awareness Month.
You're right.
That we're going to be aware of what we can share and what we can't. So that is, you've already done that work, right? You've already figured out your boundaries. This is a safe topic. I really love marine biology. I'm going to the marine biology group. I can
talk about
marine biology and not feel weird because that's what we're here to talk about.
Right.
So finding a place to do that and then just be like, hey, one time when I was in high school, I got to go see the whales. Have you ever gone to see the whales? Even though it's small talk, it's still personal.
Yeah.
So there's ways to make it safe without going into, we're going to talk about our trauma.
Right.
Absolutely. That's not like that's not exactly why we met, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, like not safely. Don't start talking about stuff that is going to make you go down the rabbit hole.
And if you have that friend, which I hope you do, and if you don't, let us know. We can be that friend that you can go to and you can talk to and be like, hey, I just need to verbally vomit right now. I just need to let all this out. It's give them a heads up. Tell them what your needs actually are. Like, I just need to vent.
Because sometimes you need to talk to somebody that is not wound up in the situation with you. So if you can find that person that knows you well enough to give you a good solid support,
and you don't necessarily need that person to fix the problem for you, because sometimes it's like, hey, I don't need you to fix this problem. I don't need you to get involved. I just need you to listen.
Sometimes if you need someone to listen, to validate that they see you, that being witnessed is so important. And then as soon as you feel witnessed, like, oh, this is what I could do differently, or this is how I could do it differently. Like, it
definitely helps.
Frees you up. Okay, you are not crazy. This is really happening. Life is like so like messed up sometimes. You can't make this stuff up sometimes. Like, you just can't. This is better than any story I could make up. Right. Life is crazy. So if you give a little, you can get a little back. Always be grateful and thankful.
Gratitude goes a long way.
And make sure you're expressing that, because we've talked about that before. Like, unexpressed gratitude does nobody any good.
Right.
So learning to practice that gratitude. And I've been creepy. I have to tell you, while you're learning these skills, you feel creepy. You're like, thank you so much. You're like, what am I doing? And I've just said to, like, okay, I'm going to try a thing. So can you bear with me for a second? Like, so now I've just made the space for, I'm going to try something new. Hey, Charlie, thank you so much for just having a good conversation with me today. See, now I've practiced. So that was.
And how did that feel when you said that?
It feels really good, because I really valued that time, and I want you to feel like, that you're important and you value.
When you said that, I kind of went, oh, I do feel important. I do feel special. And I think that is really an important thing. And in the virtual world that we have currently, where everything's online, lots of things are social media. If you see a post or something that somebody made and it draws your attention, or it makes you feel something, and you have a response to it, you should let them know what that response is.
Now, if you're shy, their private message. Every single platform has private messages.
Hearts, thumbs up.
Yeah, all of those show support and love and interaction. Like, we're working very hard on our content, right? Like, we aren't looking for your response, but we know that some days we're having the feels, right? Like, we're just some days we get in our head. Yeah, there are less days like that now.
There are times that we get in our own heads.
In my head today, and just seeing, oh my gosh, 10 people put little hearts on this post. That's awesome. We touched 10 people's lives. right? Like it means a lot to us when we're putting ourselves out there. But then also you could use a lot of our content is very shareable, and you could send it to somebody even privately and be like, I saw this and was just thinking of you, or I saw this, and spark a conversation, because a lot of our posts are prompts, great writing prompts. Sit down with a journal. But what if you used it to start a conversation with somebody that in your family, like instead of talking about the same thing we've been talking about for 20 years.
Right. Hey, I read this quote. What do you think?
Yeah. Wow, this is an interesting perspective. What's your perspective on it? You know, start the conversation, be part of it.
Yeah.
And sharing and being aware.
Yeah, for sure.
So
super cool.
So what are our thoughts for the week?
Our yoga thoughts this week or the Niyamas is taking care of myself is part of practicing yoga, right? It's part of that yogic lifestyle to practice self-care. When I practice the 5 Niyamas, I begin to self-reflect and learn who I am inside. I think that part is really important. When I practice the 5 Niyamas, I begin to self-reflect and learn who I am inside. And the third thought is a calm, clutter-free environment helps me feel content and able to commence the practice of Kriya Yoga.
Oh boy, is that true. I feel way more inclined to get my yoga mat out at home if I don't have to clear away all the clutter first.
Right.
If it already has a place to be and everything's nice, because I don't like to do yoga with the clutter around me, right?
Like, because physical clutter equals mental clutter.
Right.
And we talked about that a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna get
into it more. That's exciting.
It is. The exercises this week are, what do I do now to practice self-care? What do you do right now to practice self-care?
Oh, and are you actually doing it? One, did I used to do it? And these are the things I like to do. And so I just tell myself I'm doing them. So be truthful to yourself. Are you actually doing? So what are you actually doing?
Every day. And you can use a habit tracker to track these things, right?
Oh, yeah.
How do I feel about my self-care practices? Do they feel like an obligation, or do they give me pleasure? That's a tough one, right?
Oh.
Because it's like we want to do these things for ourselves. Are we trying to avoid them because it feels like an obligation? Or are we doing them because we actually enjoy them? I think your self-care
feel
practices,
like
you should
I
enjoy.
avoid the self-care because of guilt around taking time for myself.
There's that.
So I'm like almost a different point of view on that one too. Like, okay,
right.
I should want to take care of myself, right?
Yeah.
Because I love myself.
Yeah.
Because I trust myself.
Because you deserve it.
Because I deserve it. What?
You deserve it. You deserve your self-care practice, right? What other self-care practices would you like to incorporate into your life? Will these be easy to implement? If not, why? And I can tell you right now that the answer is no, they're not. Whatever it is, no, it's not going to be easy to implement. And why is because habits.
And boundaries, right? So you have to establish new boundaries. It creates that friction. And if you don't follow through that friction,
that tapas, that positive change,
right? It creates that friction. And when that friction comes up, it's like, do we really want to do these good things for ourselves? Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Is it hard? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. But we can do it because the rewards are so great.
Yeah. And a lot of times these self-care practices, we don't do them because either we don't feel like we deserve them. We're busy. Right? We feel guilty. Again, don't feel like we deserve it. We don't make time for them.
Because we don't feel like we deserve it. Oh, wow. Wow. Right? Is it that deserving? Is that,
I think our own mentality around self-worth has a lot to do with what kind of self-care practices we do and how we do those things. So I do talk about, I do read the whole chapter on Sundays on our YouTube channel. You can always go over there and check it out. And it goes deeper.
Gets really
It
deep
gets
in there.
really deep in there. It's going to be a
It's
tough
good week. It's gonna be a good week to
couple of
dig in.
weeks, for sure. It's going to be a good couple of weeks, but it's not going to be easy because it's creating those habits.
Yeah.
And we get stuck in our comfort zone and we don't like changing habits,
Yes.
even if we know they're good for us.
That's why I always like to sandwich the habit change on something I'm already doing.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm already going to the kitchen, I'm going to check for dishes, right? Like, what is the habit going to need to be, right? Like, what is it? So when you sandwich that new habit with the old habit, then you can start to get used to doing. And then the habit trackers are to keep you accountable, whether to yourself or to somebody else.
Yeah. Yep. And they have digital habit trackers that you can put on your phone. You can hand do them. They have all kinds of really cool things. You can go on Pinterest, check out habit trackers. There's different ideas.
Get lost on Pinterest in habit trackers.
Right.
How wonderful.
But
so
that's how we reach our goals.
Yeah, it is.
With new habits, creating new habits that are better for us.
Yeah. And tracking and accountability is one of the tools to get there.
Absolutely.
Oh, and your mindset about it is important. So I get really excited when I check off my habit, when I'm really on myself about changing things up. It gets very exciting, and celebrating that joy and connecting to that is really good.
Right. And just like that self-care practices that we're going to dig into a little deeper over the next couple of weeks with the Niyamas, the engage is skipping the small talk, right?
Yes.
Getting into those deeper conversations is part of that self-care, because that is how you heal your trauma.
Talk about the real things.
Let's talk about the real things. Let's get deeper than the surface. Let's get down to the roots.
And as you're learning to talk about these things you're not used to talking about, it might feel weird.
It
might feel awkward. I'm trying to have words for this thing I've never had dialogue for before. So give yourself grace in that adjustment. And, and if you're, and tell the person you're talking to, I'm trying to learn how to talk about how I feel about this. Can we be a sounding board? And that opens up that vulnerability.
Yeah. And you guys aren't the only, if you're thinking, well, I've never really been one to talk about my feelings and all this stuff. Well, you're not alone.
Right.
We were all, many of us as we were children were taught that there's things you don't talk about, and feelings is one of those. Right.
And how dare you have your own feelings?
Why are you so sad?
Stop crying.
I'll
give you something to cry about.
Oh, that. Yeah. We've all heard it, right? We've, some of us cry when we're happy, and we cry when we're sad, and we cry just because it's Tuesday, whatever the case may be.
And I think that that's a really awesome quality I've felt anyways. And I don't know, but somebody that's so connected to their own self that they're just moved and cry. I feel like that's a really cool quality. And why has it always been such a bad thing to do?
Right.
I
think it should be the other way around, that we should be able to talk about our feelings in a way that is a lot more acceptable. It should be acceptable for us to talk about our feelings, because if we were able to talk about our own feelings, we're not putting that onto somebody else. I understand that you are living in your own world right now, but this is how it's making me feel when you talk to me that way. This is my feelings. They belong to me. I am allowed to have them. They're my feelings. You don't get to choose what feelings I have about things. It's heavy, right?
It is.
It is, because for a long time we were told that negative feelings and emotions were not okay to have.
But guess what? Everyone has them.
Everybody has them.
Everybody has them.
So let's accept ourselves in our personal self-care, and and actually talking about things.
Yeah.
Let's get to small talk.
Have the real feels and the real talks.
For sure. For real.
Oh, goodness. So, cause of the quarter, the boogie bin. If you have not been over to the website and seen all the places you can drop off your gently used pet items, then you need to do that and see the locations you can do them. Otherwise, you can bring them to our meeting on Wednesday.
Absolutely.
We'd be happy to pick them up. If you don't know about that meeting, just shoot us a message. We'll make sure you get the link.
Absolutely.
Get
Monthly
all the
networking
dates.
meeting. I'm so looking forward to it. I would like to take a minute and thank our sponsor for today's podcast, Lorelei Chameo with MeWe Fairs. They do metaphysical fairs around the Pacific Northwest, and they have some really great upcoming dates. Their links will be in the description. They're going to be in Anacortes next week.
Oh, in July, they're going to be in Anacortes.
In July.
And Linwood here in a week or so.
Yeah, I'm super excited for them.
And so MeWe stands for Metaphysical and Wellness. So if you're curious of what the MeWe means.
Yeah, metaphysical and wellness fairs.
And she has online fairs too.
She does.
So, and I've seen some of the forums and stuff, and I've attended some of the forum stuff, and it's really cool. It's a great way to just open your mind to there's more than I know about in the world. So, in a very safe spot, because you can be safe in your own home. Right. And sometimes going out and trying new things is scary. Maybe this is a great way to get out there and get connected in a more gentle way.
Yeah, absolutely. So make sure you go check that out, because we are excited to check that out ourselves. So thank you again to Lorelei Chameo with MeWe Fairs for being our sponsor for today's podcast.
And as always, we are looking forward to connecting with more women in leadership and growing a bigger table. Thank you so much for joining us today. Namaste.
Namaste.